Hello, everybody.
Hi, sorry. It's really rainy in New York, and I think Facebook was being a little slow. So thank you for being patient, everyone watching. I'm Lainey Mays. I'm the Library Marketing Senior Manager, and I'm here with my colleague.
Hi, I'm Grace Caternolo.
Hi.
Hello.
Um, we're here, and we're here for another episode of Writers to Watch, where we get together with four authors and we just have a really casual conversation talking about their new books. It's super fun, and it's one of our favorite events that we do every month. And this month we have a really stellar event for you. So today you're going to hear from BK Borison, author of Grim Tidings, which comes out September 15th, not very long away. And we're going to hear from Becky Chambers, author of As You Wait, Break the Shell, coming out October 13th. We have Lisa Kleypas, author of Queen of Lombard Street, out October 20th. We have Lauren Willig, author of What Happens at Nightfall, coming October 6th. And I just can't believe that we have all of these four authors together in this Zoom space for you. So, librarians, thank you for joining us. We're going to go a little into each book and then we're going to bring everyone on at the end. So, be sure to be listening and watching and putting your questions in the chat, and we're going to be able to ask some of your favorite authors some questions. So, now's your time. Now's the time to shine. Grace, is there anything you would like to tell them before we get going?
We have some housekeeping at the end, but yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Well,
Including our next episode, we have
yeah,
some reveals, so don't go anywhere.
yes,
Good call out. Um, we also, do you want to tell them if you're a part of our Crowdcast group, what they get?
yes. So if you are watching us on Crowdcast, you may already know that you get early access to the e-galleys without approval. So we send NetGalley widgets registered to the email that you are on Crowdcast with. So you can start reading ahead of time. And we just, want the discussion to be fun, want you to get excited for the books. So if you're watching on Facebook, you can also register on Crowdcast and still get that perk. And yeah, we're really excited, and it's really just an honor to be here. I feel like I'm like really giddy tonight about tonight's episode. So
I say
should we
kick it
dive
off.
in?
We've kept them waiting long enough.
Yeah, let's dive in. I am excited to welcome on author BK Borison. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm so good. I'm really nervous. I don't know why, but I'm very nervous all of
You
a
have
sudden.
the best audience of librarians right now. No worries. I am just so excited that you're here. I had such a fun time reading Grim Tidings, and I've just been really pumped all day to hear from you. I'm going to read a bio and then let you take it away.
Sounds good.
So, B.K. Borison is a New York Times bestselling author of cozy contemporary romances featuring emotionally vulnerable characters and swoon-worthy settings. When she's not daydreaming about fictional characters doing fictional things, she's at home with her family, more than likely buying books she doesn't have room for, which I'm sure we all relate to. So, I am going to pass it off to BK to tell you about Grim Tidings.
Amazing. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for being here. I don't have any fancy photos to show you because this is a book that takes place in a sort of paranormal afterworld. It's a bureaucratic approach to the afterworld or the afterlife, and it's called The Department of Hauntings and Spirits. And this book, Grim Tidings, oh, I have one here so I can show you the book. Grim Tidings follows the Department of Hauntings and Spirits follows the Office of Grim Reapers and the Office of Guardian Angels. So Darcy is a Grim Reaper in the afterlife who has decided that she has had quite enough of death. And she decides instead of claiming her next soul, she's going to save it instead. Unfortunately, when she arrives in town, there's a guardian angel already there who decides that no, that's not going to happen. He doesn't trust her. His job is to protect the uh, she's just up to no good. So what follows is the story of Darcy slowly gaining Gabriel's trust um, and fighting to choose something different than death. And this book was largely inspired by my husband's work as a palliative physician. And if you don't know what palliative care is, it's one of the few medical specialties that the goal isn't to save a life, but to provide comfort at the end of a life. Um, and so Darcy's role in particular as a Grim Reaper, her job is solely death. all of her assignments die. That is her job. And so it was a reflection of watching my husband do the work that he does, which is so incredibly important. But it weighs very heavily on him. And so this book was sort of my love letter to him and to the work that he does, because I feel like these last couple of years, he's really fallen into this place of not despair, but all of his patients die. And so he has struggled a bit with feeling like the villain in everyone's story. And so this book largely is a hopeful look at what comes next for us, a romanticized look at it. And my hope is that when he reads it, when people who sort of fear death read it, it's a more hopeful look at something that we all fear. And yeah, that's Grim Tidings, and it comes out September 15th, which is a few weeks away. If you can't tell, I haven't talked about this book very much yet, so this is the first time I've talked with a group of people about it, and I'm so excited. Um, but yeah, that's Grim Tidings in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. I love hearing that, this is inspired by your husband's work. We have a comment in the chat from Ashley that says, tell him thank you for what he does. It takes a very special person to do that. So that was very, very lovely to hear
Thank
about.
you.
We've all been so excited about this here at Harper, and we're not the only ones. You have a starred review from Library Journal that says the ultimate opposites attract romance, as well as a starred review from Publishers Weekly that said readers will swoon. And I can attest to that. I was very, very swoony while reading this. So
Thank
yeah, it
you.
was such a delight. And like you said, it sounds weird to say, yeah, this book that featured a lot of death was a delight, but it really was. And you set out to do this goal of making death seem less scary, and you very much accomplished that. So thank you. I appreciate
Thank you. Yeah.
and I'm gonna put you back in the virtual green room, and we will see you in a little bit. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna welcome on Becky Chambers next. Hello. Cool background,
Hello.
by the way.
Thank you. I'm in space and definitely not in a messy office that I don't want anyone to see.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in space, but yeah, I love this. Okay, so I'm gonna introduce you, although do you need introduction? But I'm gonna introduce you, and then I'm gonna hand it off to you. So, Becky Chambers is a best-selling author of the Wayfarer series, excuse me, and the Monk and Robot novellas and other works of science fiction. She's a two-time Hugo Award winner, Locus Award winner, has been nominated for the Nebula Award, the Arthur C. Clarke Award, and the Women's Prize for Fiction, among others. Her latest work is the upcoming novel As You Wake, Break the Shell, which we're here to talk about today. It's a first in a new duology. Can't wait to hear more about that, too. Becky has a background in performing arts and grew up in a family heavily involved in space science, hence the space background. She spends her free time playing video games, hanging out in the woods, and learning about the universe. She still hopes to see Earth from orbit one day, though she's gotten picky about who she takes a ride from. Love that. Prone to hopping around, Becky can be found either in her home state of California or her wife's home country of Iceland. So jealous. That's so what sounds beautiful. And I just want to say, you have so many librarian fans. And everyone in the office has been talking about this book, and I was like, oh, don't worry. The librarians, I'm sure as soon as this releases, they're all going to be in our inbox like we need this book, and everyone at the office we've all been reading and loving and talking about, and I love to continue that with our librarians who got to read the e-galley if they haven't already. And I just think, pun intended, it's out of this world. And you have these loyal librarian fans who are here to hear from you. And I can't wait to hear more about this book. So I'm going to hand it off to you.
Well, thank you so much, Lainey. And that makes me super stoked to hear because librarians made me. So that truly means a lot. So yes, As You Wake, Break the Shell. It is the first book of two in a brand new setting. I have been describing As You Wake as equal parts a space story and a love story. I am careful to not describe it as romance because that is a genre unto itself, and those conventions are definitely not what I'm following here. But the romantic relationship that holds the focus in this book is, like all good relationships, the glue that holds the many, many pieces here together. Simultaneously, it is science fiction through and through. We have two protagonists here. The first is Cora, a pilot whose job is to mentally coax an enormous space-dwelling working animal named Colibri into hauling water, ice, and other material resources from nearby moons. Her interpersonal connection to Colibri is profound in both directions, to the point that Cora has developed a disorder in which her brain tries to mimic alien synaptic patterns that she physically cannot support. This leads her to seek help from the other protagonist, Signy, who, for lack of a better term, is a rogue botanist. She genetically engineers plants to secretly produce very small scale batches of medicine for people in this society who, for various reasons, have fallen through the cracks of their medical system. And they fall in love. They fall in love, and this is not a spoiler. The book is told in split timelines in two different settings. Cora and Signy's first year or so together in an admittedly dismal planetary colony called Fortune. And then 15 years later in their married home, which is an underground bunker in a moonlit called Sipsella. So the tension here doesn't arise from whether or not they stay together. They definitely stay together. It's about two women who choose to lace their lives together, and they only grow stronger in that as everything around them becomes more and more unstable. I really embraced getting a little weird with this one, both in the concepts I was playing with and in the structure. The book is presented in the same way that I write everything, which is to say it's non-linear. So I feel like in some ways this is a very raw book for me. I'm sort of showing you behind the curtain a little bit how I write and how I think. I wanted to give it a sort of dreamlike flow in which things are presented out of order and in a number of different forms. Everything from normal prose to pure dialogue to letters and emails and recipes and sections that are a bit more like poetry. It was it's a ton of moving parts. And then to use a technical term, it was a huge pain in the ass to write. But the intention was to create an experience that felt akin to digging through a keepsake box or exploring old memories. In a lot of ways, this is the most personal book I think I've written yet. In a way, I'm honestly feeling kind of vulnerable about. But I think that's just the point of art, to let yourself go to that place. This book is so much of what I care about in one package. It's all of my very complicated feelings about human space exploration here in the 2020s. It is about seeds, which is to say it is about information, whether that be information as genetic code, information as inheritance, information is something we are always passing along, whether it be intentionally or not. And as stated, it is very much about love. And as always, I include lots of different flavors of what love is, but this is my first time I'm putting a romance between two women really at the center the way I have here. Obviously, I've written tons of queer characters of all stripes, but there is a difference in saying, I'm going to write a story that my friends and family can see themselves in, and saying, I'm going to write a story that I can see myself in. There is something very, yeah, that took some courage in doing that. And it's about me in as much as anything can be about me in a story about space whales and illegal botany. So that's my book. As You Wake, Break the Shell. If you read it, I really hope you enjoy it. It comes out October 13th, and that's my time.
I love Rogue Botanist, and yeah, it's so great. I love it. And you said dreamlike, and I wrote down the vignettes of all of the stories so dreamy and lush, and you just feel like you can just like ruminate in it, and the world building is so beautiful along with the poetry. So thank you for writing it. And I do want to mention you have two star reviews. You have Library Journal and you have PW. And Library Journal was the science fiction fantasy pick of the month, which is exciting. But I love this quote from Library Journal. It says, Chambers once again opens the minds and hearts of readers with her takes on relationships, struggles, and hopes in her slice of life science fiction. So I just wanted to shout that out. But I also, and we can talk later, but I think my favorite character were the plants. Like, I just thought that talking about honestly what all plants do was, it was like, yeah, they kind of are alien. Like, we're still figuring them out and they can do all of these
Mhm.
things. And like, I was kind of like ready to go on a tear about like how important plants are. So I just thought that was a
Good.
lovely other aspect of the book as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk to you in a minute.
Mhm.
I'm gonna hand it back to, or am I? Maybe, no, I'm not. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna welcome Lisa Kleypas on to the virtual stage. Hi,
There
Lisa.
we go. Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm I'm so happy to be here. It's great. I want to read both of these books. They sound so good.
Oh, well, let's talk about another good book, Lisa.
Uh,
Queen of Lombard Street. And everyone's going to want to read that one too. This one, we're just so thankful to have you. So thank you so much for making the time. This is going to be a special event. So let me introduce you and then I'll hand it off to you. Lisa Kleypas graduated from Wellesley College with a political science degree. Her novels are published in 40 different languages and are bestsellers all over the world. Currently, she lives in California with her husband, Gregory. And I mean, I can't believe we have you on this program. You're a historical romance. You're just a legend. And here we are with something a little different from you, but the same passion for telling women's stories and especially in history. So I'm going to hand it off to hear more about Queen of Lombard Street.
All right, well, thank you, and thanks for having me here. This is really fun, and I appreciate it. Um, I built a career writing historical romance, and a few years ago, right after 2020, I started feeling like I needed to try something on a bigger canvas. And I've always loved historical romance, so I didn't want to like not do that. But I thought, what would happen if I put a really full-blown historical romance inside a historical fiction novel and just like maybe instead of painting a portrait, I painted a mural. You know what I mean? Just expand it. So not just with extra historical facts. It's more like a bigger story that goes into Victorian London, issues, big cast of characters, and it was really exciting. And so I felt like um, each part of this made the other part better. Like I feel like the romance is actually more exciting when it's rooted in much more intense stakes, and the stakes seem much more intense when there's a romance that's possibly not going to happen. So the basic premise is a female economist in Victorian Britain sets out to build Britain's first bank with the help of a mentor and business partner. She finds out the butler that she's just hired is actually an undercover detective who's investigating her mentor and her. So if she helps in the investigation, it could jeopardize the dream that she has of building this bank. And she has a pretty hot relationship with this butler. So the thing that was fascinating to me is because I've done so much in creating self-made men as the heroes in my historical romances, I wanted to do the same thing with a woman, and like not through marriage, not inheriting, but to really find out how would you, if you didn't have anything back then, become a really big success. And I mean like monetary as well as, within this profession. And so I looked at all these different areas that women were achieving these incredible things against all odds. But the thing that was interesting to me is in finance, it was one of the few areas that didn't have a huge concrete wall in front of you before you could really do anything. In other words, money doesn't care. Money will behave the same way, whether a man is investing it or doing something with it or a woman. So I thought finance would be an unusual and just fascinating career for a woman. And another reason that this was especially meaningful to me is that the women back then, they had such a limited relationship with money. They weren't allowed to keep their own earnings most of the time. If they wanted to open their own bank account, they couldn't without a man being attached to it with the right to clear out the account if he wanted to. So they couldn't just walk into a bank and get their own account. And if you couldn't do that, there's no way you can get ahead. And so I think Raina Martin, who is my heroine, wants to start this women's bank to help all women to be able to get ahead, do things for their children, their husbands, their friends, themselves, and prepare for their future, do some savings. So the unexpected part of this book was just this little mention that I made at the very beginning where she has started to really become successful. She has bought a house, has no servants, so she goes to an employment agency, and they had employment agencies back then that were specifically for placing servants in households. And another thing that was interesting was they would do this also for paroled prisoners back then. They called them ticket of leave servants. And so they had this agency that she went to, and she hires this entire staff of household servants. And I never expected how much it would give to the book, but seeing them all together, I mean, these are like tough people who have had really tough lives and really committed crimes, and they become a found family. And so it adds a lot of humor and a lot of fun, a lot of big feelings and big problems as well. So while I was researching this book and looking at all the different ways that women could succeed, I found many, many women that inspired me incredibly. They were not recognized at the time because history, until very recently has been written by men, and men, kind of tended to think that women weren't, necessary to write about. So, but there are women that I feel like should be mentioned and should be appreciated. So if you go on this image and you go clockwise from the top left, Eliza Orme was the first woman in England to earn a law degree. She earned the degree, but they still wouldn't call her to the bar because she was a woman. So she just opened her own little law office, drafting wills and doing things like that, even though she couldn't be a courtroom lawyer. Hetty Green was the richest woman in Gilded Age America, and she was the wealthiest investor in the entire world, man or woman. And at one point when New York went bankrupt after a financial scandal, she literally bailed out New York with a personal loan from her own checking account. So she was amazing. Maggie Lena Walker founded the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank in Richmond, Virginia. And she was the first Black woman in the US to charter a bank. And if you don't think she had obstacles back then doing that, I mean, it was tough, but she was just an incredibly brilliant woman. And then the last one is Mary Paley Marshall, and I used a lot of her history to create Raina. And she was one of the first 5 women to sit in classes and go all the way, take the exams with flying colors for economy, to be an economist. And they withheld the diploma from her because she was a woman. But they were like, you're great. We love you. So a couple of years later, at the age of 26, they invited her back to become a teacher there, even though they never gave her a diploma. So these are the sort of things that women were having to deal with back then. And I loved being able to go into that, describe it. And so this also, this book was inspired by an actual scandal, the Pharaoh's Bank scandal. And I think, yes, we have an ad for that, because even though women had a lot of tremendous obstacles in front of them, they still wanted the money that women earned. And so banks started to try to lure women to put their savings in their bank, and these were like widows or women who were on a pension from their husband who was a soldier who died. And you can see from this ad, which is really interesting, that it looks almost like a women's suffrage sort of ad. And they did that deliberately because they understood that money was being denied women to keep them from having rights and having power. And it was arguably much more important even than having the vote, because if you don't have money, you can't do anything. You have no voice back then. So anyways, I just thought that ad was interesting to show. But I think what makes this book different, most of all for me, is the fact that I can go places with it, with the story, maybe go into darker, grittier territory, but also like funnier territory. And I don't have to hew as much to the romance kind of structure, where usually everything that goes into the plot in the book has to focus tightly on the couple. So, it's I feel like it's Lisa Kleypas Unleashed, to tell you the truth. So anyway, it's a historical fiction novel with a strong central romance. And I'm excited about it. And I appreciate the good wishes and support I've gotten so far. And so thanks for having me on here so I could talk about it.
It's so wonderful. I feel like you need a stamp of unleashed. You can just like stamp unleashed on anything you want. It's great. No, the book it's fantastic. And I just want to call out your website specifically because you have thank you so much for providing those photos. I think everyone loves seeing more, especially when you do all this research of the real people who are behind it. And so just I will put it in the chat because you have a really great website with even more information. But I love when you open it, it says, "Women help shape the world we live in. History left them out. How can we know who we are if we don't know who we were?" And I think that is just a perfect, I mean, it sums up, it is this book, which is why it's on the website. But I think it's perfect because, I love when I'm learning something new, but I think it's such a talent to do it in a novel where I don't feel like I'm being, like it's not a nonfiction read. I'm just in the book. I'm in the narrative. I'm enjoying the story. There's so many little things sprinkled. Like you talk about how, I think there was one part where it's like, there's so many windows, even though there's a big tax on windows. I'm like, now I want to know more about that. So I'm like going down a rabbit hole, and I think it's just such a talent to do, but also bring these wonderful relationships in there as well, and these wonderful characters. So yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel strongly that we don't focus on women's history enough. And if you know what women were struggling with back then and dealing with, and know about their triumphs as well, then it's hard to face things today, because people will be like, well, women have never done this. Well, yeah, they did. And if you know the history, you can see it. So it's, in a way, it's almost like when you find out about their lives and what they were doing, it's almost like they're whispering to us now, like, this is what I had to deal with. This is part of the work. You keep on swimming or whatever. You know what I mean? Just keep going.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, just because they weren't highlighted doesn't mean that they weren't there doing really important work. For
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
For sure. Well, thank you so much. And we will talk to you in just a minute. We're going to bring on Lauren Willig.
Great.
Hi, Lauren. How are you?
On here.
There we go.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited you're here. And thank you for, I know you're traveling right now, so I really appreciate you still coming on and hanging out with us for an hour or so. I just want to say I had so much fun reading What Happens in Nightfall, but I was kicking myself for not going to like Greenwood while I was I live in Brooklyn. I was like,
So you
I
have no
should have gone.
excuse.
Yes, I literally was like, I should have gone and like really immersed myself. It's already an atmospheric novel, but I was like, maybe when I do a reread, like after it comes out in October, maybe I'll go take a seat at the cemetery and dive in again. So thank you. I'm going to read a quick bio for you. Lauren Willig is a New York Times and USA Today bestselling author. An alumna of Yale University, she has a graduate degree in history from Harvard and a JD from Harvard Law School. She lives in New York City. And tell us all about what happens at Nightfall.
Sure. Well, this book was entirely my editor's fault. Um, so my editor had the good sense to marry a man who has not one, but two family mausolea at Greenwood. I wish I had thought of that as a dating criteria back when I still had time. Don't tell my husband I said that. But anyway, one day my editor emailed and said, "Hey, I've got my hands on the family crypt keys. Do you want to come with me to open them up? I'll bring coffee." And I mean, the only answer to that is obviously, how soon can we go? So I met my editor at Greenwood. Actually, Lainey promised she would help me with the slides since I don't have them smoothly done. So if we could bring up the first slide, thank you. So this is one of those family tombs. And my editor produced the most amazing testament to the locksmith's work, this huge baronial key, and we opened the tomb. And it was amazing. And we explored the other one too. It was as fascinating as you would think. But then by then we were so hopped up on the excellent coffee that she had brought that she gave me a tour of some of her other favorite places at Greenwood, including an enormous rhododendron that I don't have a good picture of, the size of a tree, and my Gothic dream house, which you can see in front of you right now. It looks like it came off the cover of John Belair's The House with a Clock in Its Walls. I always wanted that house. And I gawped at it and said, "Oh my God, whose house is this?" And she said, "Well, the hot arborist lives there." And the second I heard the words hot arborist, there was no going back. And I started thinking, what if the hot arborist was a widower with no relation to the poor man whose house and career I stole for this book, but the imaginary hot arborist in my head? What if he were a widower with two kids, a girl of about 15 and a boy of 11? And what if his dead wife's family had a mausoleum at Greenwood in which an ancient evil has been contained for all these years? And what if that ancient evil is accidentally unleashed on the same night my heroine, Jess, a woman in her mid-30s who has been unemployed now for about 9 months, is getting increasingly panicky, has been dragged on a cemetery tour by her best friend? And what if Jess finds Adam's son Ben under that giant rhododendron, completely freaked out by something that spooked him, and takes him home through the dark, creepy cemetery night? And that sets in motion a whole train of events that throws her and Adam together as they have to battle this unleashed ancient evil. And with the help and sometimes hindrance of a cranky Victorian ghost with an agenda of her own. So that's sort of the idea in a nutshell. One of the great joys of this book was getting to explore Greenwood. And that's my little flashlight as I stumble around Greenwood Cemetery at night. It's amazing by night or by day. And I loved getting to weave some of the real monuments and real people and real events from this cemetery into this book. So actually, if we can just quickly go through. So I stole a real mausoleum as the model for my Vanderwilt family mausoleum. In real life, this is a Morgan mausoleum, but I spent an amazing time mausoleum shopping for this book at Greenwood, and just finding so many other things that made their way into the book. Anyway, I could go on, but I'll just say I hope everyone finds the cemetery and Adam and Jess's battle with evil as fascinating as I did.
That was amazing. I love seeing the photos. And also, I'm gonna call up your editor and be like, why wasn't I invited? Like, I want to know where you got the coffee. That is so fun. You also got an amazing star review from LJ that said, a great read for those who like paranormal, second chance romances, historical details, and humorous moments. It could be the most entertainingly romantic walk in a cemetery readers will ever take. So I just wanted to call that out. It was a really great quote. And thank you, Lauren. And I'm going to invite everybody back on screen. I just want to say, like, Lainey and I cannot keep up with this chat online right now. Everybody's freaking out, chatting with each other. Lisa, somebody said they read every book you've ever published.
Oh my goodness, that's
People-
amazing.
I cannot keep up
Sweet.
with
I just want to say, if anyone comes up to me and says, I have the family crypt key, should we open it? Or there's a hot arborist who lives there. Like, those have got to be the two best things anyone's ever said to someone, right? Like, I love that.
I
I
thought
wrote
the
it
answer to
down.
both of those is always yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I wrote it down. I love that so much. So thank you to everyone. This has been so fun. Let's look at some comments. Let's jump. I mean, Grace is not wrong. You have to scroll a while to get to the top. Everyone's loving this. We actually had someone, I think, who wrote a question before, like a week ago. They were so excited. They're like, I'm gonna write a question in the chat. Do we know what that is?
Yeah, it's right at the top. Let me.
Oh, I think it's
Oh, okay.
for Becky.
Yeah.
Yeah, Becky Chambers. So it says, the narrative is told non-linearly, it's hard to say, through the lens of the Rorqual's perspective. I love this from a technical perspective. I was wondering if you could possibly explain your writing process. Did you write the story like that and then reformat or vice versa? And would love to just know more. And they adored the book. So Liv from Indiana.
Well, thank you for being a week ahead of time. Excellent work there. So my writing process, no matter what I'm writing, is chaos, and I don't wish it on anybody. I don't write linear, and I don't outline. I just sit down and write what I'm gonna write that day, and just kind of feel it out as I'm going along. Eventually, I always reach a point at which I reach sort of a critical mass of material. I have a good idea at that point what's going to stay and what's not. And then it's a process of just literally moving post-it notes around and figuring out how it goes. This is how I've written all of my books. So with this one, it was, as I said earlier, just kind of a letting you see behind the scenes a little bit and keeping making sure that the edges were still smooth between all those parts, but keeping the rest of it a little bit raw and sort of, a little bit funkier in how I was going about it. So it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of experimentation. It was a lot of trying something and then throwing it out. I probably wrote this book twice in word count. But yeah, it really is just a matter of feeling it out as I go along.
Yeah, well, I think I'm gonna set this up as questions and say throw it to everyone else because are you a plotter or are you a pantser? What's the general consensus? Let's jump in.
Well, I was always a pantser, but I have been forced to become much more of a plotter just with this, new direction because it's it's just necessary when you've got a lot of moving parts.
I would love to be more of a plotter than I am. That would help me out big time. But I know where we're starting and I know where we're ending up, and then I try to let myself go in between because I feel like if I have a really strict outline, then it feels like a grocery list and I can't be as creative as I like to be. So definitely a Cancer.
And I'd say I'm a hybrid. I am very character driven. So I can't outline too far ahead because if I do, then I'm trying to push my characters into places they don't want to go because they grow, they develop, they change on me. They definitely have minds of their own and they get very stubborn. But I need to have some sense of direction. So I have a rolling outline as I'm going where I'm just constantly re-outlining every chapter about 2 or 3 chapters ahead. And sometimes 3 chapters ahead is just, and then stuff happens. But it keeps me going and moving forward while I learn the characters and get to know them so I can know what they want to do.
No, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I like saying rolling outline. I'm going to start saying that now because it's good. That's a good way to do it.
Trying to go through and see more of our questions.
Yeah.
Okay. And people put it in our Q&A box. That's very helpful. So for everybody, Donna said, I have to admit, I'm having a hard time putting together a thought because I'm fangirling so hard, but it would be fun to know what everybody's biggest surprise in the process of creating your story. which I feel like kind of goes well with
That's kind
like
of a sweet question. I like that
yeah.
question.
So was there something, I guess Donna, I'm not going to speak for you, but I think the question is kind of like, did your character surprise you throughout writing? Was there something you discovered about yourself or up the process? It's very open.
Of me? Do I mean, okay. So one of the paroled convicts that is working as a servant now, he's working as the coachman for Raina Martin, is this really big, scary guy. In fact, he's like so scary they didn't even want him in prison. So they were like, "Here, you could go." So he can't read, and so the very feisty cook, who is also Raina's best friend, she is not a parole prisoner. She is always kind of snapping at him and irritated with him, but she's helping him to learn to read. So she has a sand tray that they used to put in the oven that would help even out the temperature in the oven when you're baking a cake or something. So she puts the sand tray on the kitchen table and she traces the letters for him. And so he could start learning letters by tracing in the sand tray. So it surprised me because there was a session where they were doing this, and all of a sudden it got slightly flirty, and then I realized, oh my God, they're going to have a relationship, and I hadn't really expected that. But he was sort of very Derek Craven like, you know what I mean, just kind of like really rough and snaggly but sexy, and it was a fantastic pairing, and it added a lot to the story, but. I love it when things like that just sort of happen in your story, though.
Yeah.
My answer will be very short because I can't answer this question because it's a massive spoiler. So,
Yep. Okay. And
I'm waiting for Lauren to tell me what she was
Oh gosh,
what
as we
did you,
were
I feel
playing
like we're
chicken
in
with trying to be the
therapy. We're
last
like, what did
one.
you learn about yourself? It's like a therapy session. Go ahead.
It does feel that way when I'm drafting them often. I know who the characters are when I get started, but it's often like when I start actually writing the scenes and stuff, I'm like, oh, this is something I should probably talk to my therapist about because this is really bothering this character. Um, but yeah, for this one in particular, I think I knew Darcy, the Grim Reaper, would be a dealer of death, and my husband, his job being what it is, I knew it would. There's my daughter's foot. I knew uh, it would, dig up some things about our relationship and the way I view his work and stuff like that. But I don't think I realized how much the intersection of romance and love and death and how all three are so braided closely together. So for me, it was an interesting conversation to have with myself about my relationship with my husband.
Okay, and now I guess I can't avoid this anymore. Um, so for me, the interesting thing was my past few books, I've gone more and more heavily historical as the years have gone on. And my last few books were very closely based on real historical events and real people and very closely charted the real historical record. So there was room for emotional development, but not for a lot of creative plotting, let's say. And with this book, it was the complete opposite. It was a contemporary, and all bets were off. I could write anything I wanted, which was both thrilling and terrifying at the same time. I'd say the thing I had the most fun with, and that surprised me most, was how little pop culture references just popped up and became things over the course of the book. And like, I'll just leave this here for the moment, a possessed Cookie Monster doll.
I love that. I love that. Oh, this is so great. Okay. So I had another, let me find my thing. It went everywhere. We had a question. There was one about book 2, Becky. Hold on, let me find it. Yes. Okay, so someone said, finished the book today. It was equally heartwarming and heartbreaking. Does book 2 in the duology pick up where book 1 left off?
book 2 does indeed pick up right where it left off. So, again, there will be a shift in timelines, but as far as where I know you ended, that timeline will pick up right from there.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I just wanted to read a comment for BK. Caroline said, I want you to know that I stayed up all night last night, almost literally finishing Grim Tidings, and I loved it so much. Your acknowledgments made me cry. Thank you for a wonderful book. And then I have a question for you because when I was reading, I was like, I really just like, what made you think of, and maybe to some extent this is the answer is your husband's job, but like you corporatize death in such a smart way. And when you think of like the death industry, it really is so, methodical. It's a business. But, it was fun to have these like whimsical characters who have like, these like powers, but it's a setting that we're kind of familiar with. Like I was like, this is so weird. Like I feel like when they get called to the meeting at first, I was like, wait. But how did you think of that, doing it in that way?
So with the first book, I introduced this Department of Hauntings and Spirits. We meet in Good Spirits. It's the Office of Holiday Spirits, and he's the ghost of Christmas past. We see all these depictions of ghosts and spirits through different media, through film and through books and music. And I just love the idea of aggregating them under this one umbrella of like, there's actual this organization that keeps everybody in place. Like you get this assignment to haunt this person and you have to haunt this person for this reason. And it started out as this really silly idea, but as I was writing the first book, it turned into this really beautiful idea of what if souls become ghosts because of the unfinished business concept, but also what if the unfinished business were driven by love, and what if
I think you broke up for a second.
oh, I froze,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, all good. I was like, is it
Where do we stop?
I I heard what if Lenny, where did you get left off?
The business was run by
But
love, and
yeah,
then
yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's a really beautiful concept of what if souls are sticking around because they're waiting for, who they're meant for. And so it started out really silly and nonsensical, but as I've sort of dug deeper into this idea of a department of the afterlife, it's become this really beautiful idea of it's a I keep using the word aggregation, but like every culture has their own approach to the afterlife. And so I like the idea of bringing them all together under one umbrella. And there's all these people working towards giving people a happy ending.
I love that. It gives you a lot of room to play for future books too.
For sure.
I love this. We're getting so many fun notes in the chat. So for Lisa, I don't know if you want to talk at all about Reina's, where her name comes from and that side of her life, the Spanish side, and how that leads into the book.
Yes, yeah. It's the Spanish word for queen, and she is the illegitimate child of a Spanish dancer and kind of an upper middle class Englishman. And so she has this nullius filius status. So she's kind of like a quote nobody. And her father assumes that she is just probably going to follow in her mother's footsteps and that she will end up being kept by some man. And her mother becomes so angry about this and so determined. And she said, you're going to be reina de su propio castillo. And so, like, queen of your own castle. And she was like, I will get you books. And so she has a subscription library and makes sure that Reina gets library books that she can read all the time. And then she also um, has tutors that she hires. So she understands that for her little girl, that education is the key to helping her climb out of this and at least have the choice, so to see what she wanted to do. And so I had the absolute pleasure of researching and putting in the book uh, a lot of stuff about Victorian Spanish London, because there were about 7 or 8 thousand fully Spanish people who, political upheaval or whatever was going on in Spain during various times, they would come over to England. So they formed this incredible tight-knit community, and it was so wonderful to put scenes where they're mingling. You got the ambassador from Spain down to the newly arrived Potter and his wife who just got here, they all mingled like they were equals, and because they all had being Spanish in common. And so that was just such a fun, interesting angle to put in this book. And I don't know why we've never really seen anything about Victorian Spanish London. Maybe there's something out there that I just wasn't able to find. But I think it's neat to realize that Victorian London is not just like all white people in ballrooms, you know? So that was really fun.
Yeah, really interesting. Thank you.
Okay. Lauren, I want you to know people are really obsessed with this idea of the hot arborist, and you should be. It was great. So I was kind of wondering, so in the last couple of years, yes, you've been writing a lot of historical. Did you go into that walk with your editor and think, I do want to write a romance again? Or did it just kind of come to you? And what was that shift like, after writing historical fiction for so long to shift back to romance? Because obviously librarians are all fans of your Pink Carnation series. So I just wanted to ask
Thank
about that.
you. Well, to be very honest, so for years on and off, I had been asking my agent if I could write a contemporary romance just for fun. And she kept being like, no, bad author, stop that. We've just finally branded you as a serious historical author. Don't do that. And I really didn't think that the situation was going to change, but I was having lunch with my agent right after I'd gone to Greenwood with my editor. And at the time, I was under contract for another really heavy historical, a book about the Nancy Randolph trial of 1792, another famous American trial, all real people, all real stuff, amazing story. And I'd been spending months researching it. I had started to write it. And I mentioned over coffee this idea I had about Greenwood and the hot arborist and the ancient evil trapped in the mausoleum. And my agent said, okay, drop everything, write that. And I got coffee up my nose, as one does, because I thought, no, she's like, who kidnapped my agent? What alien is this? Because for years I'd been like, rom-com, please. And she'd been like, no. And I said, but wait, I'm under contract for this other book. And she said, don't worry, I'll call your editor. It'll be fine. And it was, they just swapped out the titles in the contract. And suddenly, instead of writing about Nancy Randolph and her love affair in 1807 with Gouverneur Morris, I was writing about a hot arborist and a woman with hereditary powers she doesn't know she has, and demons possessing a Cookie Monster doll. And it was so much fun. But it's been a bit of a wild ride.
Oh, as much as I would love to read that other book, and I hope it does get written, I'm very glad that you were able to write What Happens at Nightfall, which actually, like, kind of weirdly, I think we have time for one or two more questions.
Someone wrote, good agent, good agent.
Yes. And this was interesting. Somebody did ask, they said, I'm gonna borrow this from another author event. This is a question for everybody. If you have an answer for it. If you could write in another genre, what would it be? And if you have, please share.
I'll go from the bottom. So BK, Borison, Becky, Lisa, Lauren.
I grew up on fantasy and sci-fi, and I think writing paranormal is probably the closest I'll inch in that direction, just because I love consuming it so much. Yeah, my brain is happiest consuming it as inspiration and not writing it myself.
Well, you're always welcome at our table if you decide to make the jump. So.
Thank you.
I would, this might sound weird, but I would write nonfiction, honestly. As you might note, if you're familiar with any of my other work, I love explaining the universe. I love talking about the universe. I love writing love letters to all the things that make it up. And I obviously do read fiction, but I like by volume, I read a lot more nonfiction. That is kind of my happy place is reading science books. So if I ever get tired of doing this, which I haven't yet, maybe I will try my hand there.
Well, I'll go. I'm thinking probably I'd like to do like a romantic comedy because I've had a lot of comedy in my books, but there's just a different pace and rhythm. So yeah, I think I'd like to do something like that.
And as for me, I've always ran genre stew. Whatever genre I think I'm writing is usually not what I've actually written. When I wrote the first Pink Carnation book, I proudly told my agent I had written a traditional Regency romance, and he told me that he didn't think I had written what I thought I'd written. He thought I'd invented historical chick lit. Mystery bookstore owners told me I'd written a mystery. Penguin very sternly told me I'd written a historical. And I found because I read across genres, I read, I'm a voice reader. So I read everything as long as I like the voice. And it means it all trickles into my own writing. And so I jump from genre to genre to genre. As to what I would write that I haven't already written, well, the book I wrote after Nightfall, we'll see what becomes of it, is a romantasy set in Edwardian England. So I do feel like I have genre whiplash because I've written three genres now in three books. Where I'll go from there, I don't know. I think the least likely thing would be space opera, but you never know.
Never say never. You never know. Oh, this has been, and someone said they love voice reader. They're stealing that. That's a really good thing to say.
I was just thinking that too. Yeah.
That's really good, right? This has been an amazing hour. Before I wrap us up, is there anything anyone wants to say to librarians? This is your time, your audience, no pressure, but anything we didn't go over today that you're like, wait, this is your time, and then I'll wrap us up. And I'll
I
get,
I have
yep.
to say, I was a latchkey child. I spent a lot of time alone, and I would walk to our local library, and this was when I was in elementary school, and just gather armloads of books back and forth. So I was really raised by librarians. So I want to say thank you in general because I feel like I wouldn't be here without that.
Second that. I'm such a fangirl for libraries. I love, like, whenever I travel, I like to, if I have the time, I like to find out where the public library is, just because it just gives you such a good feel for what the community is and what this place is. And so all I want to say is just thank you to all of you for being incredibly hardworking, passionate people. You are why we do what we do.
Thirded the bottom shelf in the nonfiction section at the Bel Air Public Library. I could fit my body perfectly in that little nook, and I would hide from my mom so she wouldn't know where to find me, so I could read longer. I love libraries so much. Thank you. It is, especially these days, it's a very thankless job, but you continue to do it, and it's the most important job we have, educating our young people, keeping young people reading. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I fourth all of that. There's something magical about being able to find the right book for the right person. And librarians, you are pure magic. I am so grateful to my school librarian growing up who put Victoria Holt into my hands, and Mary Stewart, and Elizabeth Peters, and Barbara Michaels. And I wouldn't be the person or the writer I am without those books and that magic. So thank you for all you do and sparkling that amazing literary fairy dust everywhere.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. That was really special because to see all of the chat and how much love they're giving to you, and then to hear it go back to them, I just feel like that was just really special. So thank you for sharing all of that. Um, these are all very different books. They're love stories, I think, at the heart, either familial, romantic, etc. Spectral, across space and plane. I feel like we all kind of are getting to it, but they're all different reads and we're all coming together tonight to talk. And I can't thank you enough for all of your time and your reverence to librarians. It comes through. They love you. They're so excited for these books. One more time, I'm going to share all of the covers and I'm going to tell everyone all the pub dates so that they don't forget. So we have Grim Tidings, and that is out September 15th. We have Queen of Lombard Street out October 20th. We have As You Wake, Break the Shell out October 13th. And we have What Happens at Nightfall out October 6th. Grim Tidings was already on the library list, library reads list for September, so congratulations. And the rest of our October titles, those votes are due September 1st. So I'm just saying, I'm gonna lay that out there. Thank you so much, and just bear with us for 1 second as we give some quick updates. Grace, you want to walk us through that?
Yeah. on September 3rd, Thursday, 2 p.m., you can find Lainey at a book list webinar talking all about romance with a couple other publishers, and that'll be super fun. Then the day before that, we are going to be on Galley Gabfest, Book Buzzin', Facebook Crowdcast, silly goofy time, and then drum roll, our next Writers to Watch Thursday, September 17th at 7 p.m. We are going to have Lexi Ryan, Rebecca Lee Morales, and Nicolina Torres on. We're confirming our last author, but it'll be exciting. And that'll be a blast. That's going to be really fun. We have a lot of we're expecting a lot of different genres for that one, so that'll be really cool. And thank you all for being here. My heart is very warmed by all the love in the chat and all the love from our authors, and it has been a really fun and special evening. So thank you all again. And
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
see you next
Good
time.
night.
Bye.
Bye.